Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is brought to you by I Am William Brown, a place where you can be yourself and live your life. One way that you can help with the show One Word Conversations is to share, like, and subscribe. We are broadcasting or streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. The other way that I highlight and spotlight what's available on IamWilliamBrown.com is to use our U cards to set the intention for the show. And I've picked the cards for the show, and my I am card is I am curious. That's always good because that's a core value of mine. You are enough. And the quote card is there is no one youer than you. I think I picked that the other day. So I guess this is a Dr. Seuss week, right? So that is fun. So with the intention set for today's show, I'm going to introduce our word, and our word is care. It's interesting because when this word first came up for me, I thought to myself, oh, this is pretty basic, right? It's like, I understand what care is. There's a lot of other ways that care is showing up and not showing up in my life. And so I kind of, I felt I had a good enough understanding, but, I put it on the list, and, now I have a guest, and we're going to have a conversation. So as I do, I invite a guest to come in, and we'll have a conversation.
Hello, William.
Hello. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to be here with you.
Oh, great to have you. This is the moment where I ask my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Mm. Well, I am a mum of, 3 young adults now. I can't say kids anymore.
Right.
And I'm also a coach. I work with leaders, and I work with leadership teams. And when I say I work with leaders, I mean it in the broadest sense of the word. Leaders as in corporate or organizational sense, but also leaders who are in charge of their own lives and their own paths, and are leading from that kind of energy. So I'm very fortunate. I love what I do, and I'm really passionate about it.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I totally get it. So often people look at leader as a position instead of a way of being, right? And so you're helping people understand and bring on their leadership. So the question of the day is, how does the word care land for you?
Wow. Well, I told you just in a short sentence before we went live that this was probably the word if you were to ask me which word I would pick. Because I've been doing work on my why for a long time now, and there's always different layers of the onion that show up. And the last layer, the most recent layer, was about care. And so I had that word very close to my heart. And when I read it in your message that this is the word you picked for me, I couldn't believe it. It was really amazing. And I was wondering, how do you pick words for your guests? Because you obviously have a really strong intuition then.
Right. It's, there's a part of me, not wanting to embrace my intuition and, just like, oh yeah, it's random, it's like, no, it's not random. It's your intuition. Go with it, dude. Right. It's okay. Right. And so, yeah, I just felt a strong sense to, let's unpack care and just kind of really see what that means.
Right. And when I was, as I was listening to you just now saying care is such a basic word, I completely agree. And it resonates on a very, very basic level, right? We know what care is. We all know this word, and we all know what it feels like and in how many ways we can care.
Right.
And we also know what it's like when it's absent,
Hmm.
when it's not present in our life, in our conversations, in our relationships. Um, and yet, as I started reflecting on this word more and more, there are just so many layers to
Hmm.
it. And it just became a really, really fundamental word for me, because there is nothing really we can do, if you really think about it, that makes sense and that enriches our lives without care being part of it.
Right, and I really appreciate that, and I think, like you were saying, that for myself, most of the times when I have a conversation around care is the lack of, or that
Mm,
it's something is missing and I need to do more of. Right,
mm,
it's like when we talk
mm,
about self-care, it's like, okay, I need to do more of this, because it's getting in the way. And so how it has landed for me often is that there wasn't enough. I didn't
mm,
give enough care. And then, because I felt that there wasn't enough, so it was interesting that, one of my cards I pulled was "You Are Enough," is
mhm,
is that I felt that my efforts weren't enough to make a difference, so then there would be a judgment about my care. I don't care enough to do this, or I'm not caring enough to change this. And I think the more that, I don't want to say look at the positive side of care, or just kind of accept care as, not just consideration or an extension of my love, um, then I won't stay in when it's absent, or something. I don't know if that
mhm.
makes sense, right?
Absolutely, and it's I hear that care and judgment are closely connected in a sense for you as well.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because that's what came up for me as well, is what happens instead of care, or how when it's not present, what is present instead. And very often that's where I go,
Hmm.
is to judgment. And obviously
Right.
we all get judgmental from time to time, and it's perfectly natural. But at the same time, when I'm really present, and I can allow myself to access that energy that is all about caring,
Hmm.
I have a much better chance to really connect.
Hmm. Yeah. I get that. And it's almost like, when, there's a saying that when someone's going through some difficult times, right? And there's something, and it is, um, you just being there, right? You don't have to say the right words. You're just there. And just sometimes, all a situation really needs is our presence, right? It doesn't need, nice words and, grandiose actions. It just needs our presence.
I
And I
agree, our presence, but with this kind of energy that I care.
hmm,
That's all I think we need to communicate in that sense. And when I say communicate, not verbally
right,
necessarily, but with our being, with our presence.
right. Yeah. I think, um, I'm one of those people. I, I try to, I say that I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? And so every once in a while, it just kind of it kind of shows up that, when I'm in my caring mode, right? I just want it to be perfect. I want people to get it. I want my wife to feel that, hey, I am wholeheartedly, care about her concerns or conversations or anything. And anything less than a perfect expression of care, it's like it's nothing. It's like all or nothing for me. And I don't think that's the case. Or is care, you care or you don't type of thing?
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I never really thought about care as being perfect or not perfect. For me, care is more about being soft and connecting. And whether that can be perfect, I'm not sure. But it can certainly be pure or not pure.
Okay, I got that. Right. Because too often I can see how my good intentions, thinking about my wife again, my good intentions of listening, to show that I care, right? And sometimes it just goes awry, right? It's like, so
Sure.
it wasn't pure, right? Because it was just like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this later, right? So my intention
Exactly.
is to give her the appearance of care, so
Right.
we can get through this.
Oh,
And
right. We do that all the time. We do it with I should say, I know I did it with my kids because, especially when they're little and, you're trying to get on with your daily, whatever important tasks, and they
right,
come up with all the different things that they're excited about. And I do pay a little bit of attention and I make a comment or somehow connect, showing that I care, but actually my real attention is on the task that I'm doing.
right,
And they are such incredible mirrors because they notice it right away and they'll reflect it
right,
back. They'll reflect
right,
it back immediately. So,
right.
so it can be a harsh mirror from time to time.
Right. The purity. I just, um, I'm really, I don't want to say I'm getting stuck on that, but that is something to kind of, um, that no agenda, no anything, just because I care, I am available. I'm present. Uh,
Mhm.
you feel that, and I think you're right. I have some adult children, myself, and when I can remember some of the conversations that or interactions that I had with them when they were young, and it was just like, I really hope they know that I care about them, because
Mhm.
it's like right now, and it's not really, yeah, and
It,
sometimes, I felt that, I was just doing enough to kind of keep them, you know, entertained, right?
yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah, and it comes up in leadership work as well, because in my experience, one of your strongest tools in leadership is this tool of caring
Mm,
and really connecting with the people that you are leading. And if you're aware of how you show up in that relationship and how you communicate that you actually do care, um, you have so much more power, and I mean it in the best sense of the word,
right.
uh, to really drive that connection and drive your team and move forward. It's an incredible amount of motivation for your people.
Yeah, I think the one thing that, when I was in a corporate environment, and most of my coaching, a large percentage of my coaching is with solopreneurs, or small business
Mhm.
owners. And so there's not that many layers, right? So there's still
Mhm.
this kind of, personal connection and all that other kind of stuff. And my experience with, the C-suite or leadership in larger organization is that there was this prescriptive care mode, right? It's like, it was like, okay, if we do this, and
Mhm.
this, they'll believe that we care. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, it's like, that's not it, right? Yeah, yeah,
Doesn't work that way.
right. And I think sometimes that same mentality would show up in my relationships. If I do this,
Mm.
this, and this,
Mhm.
I can
Mhm.
kind of, hack my way to have people believe that I care about them. And so I think care is more personal, right? It's more, I guess, an individual. It's like how I care for um, one person is different than how I care for another person. Or is that, I don't want to say doing too much type of thing, but is that really the way we should look at it, to really understand and be present to what is needed?
I believe so, because I really strongly believe that our life is relational. We live in the
Right,
relational space.
right,
You cannot really talk about care without talking about the relational space,
right,
right? Even when you talk about self-care, you talk about your relationship with yourself. How
right,
do I show up for my own uh, wellness, for my own well-being, and
right,
how do I care for that, whether in terms of physical exercise or in terms of emotional or mental stability. But it's all about the connection, and
right,
and so consequently, the connection with another individual is uniquely there between me and that other person. So the way I care about that other person or about the relationship is going to be different uh, from person to person.
yeah. For a long time I didn't understand, appreciate self-care, because in my mind, self-care was, candles and bubble baths, right? And
Oh, I love that.
right, and so it's like, I don't got time for that, right? Right, but until I really got to a place where, like you were saying, is because of my relationship with myself, I could understand how I can care for myself, how I
Mhm.
can take, so I can take walks, I can realize that, what, I think I need to take a nap right now, right? Or
Right,
something, or something. And no bubble baths, or no candles needed. It's, I'm
right.
caring for myself.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, for me, I just try to make things almost, it's either I make things too difficult or I make things too easy. I try to simplify everything to the point that now, I did nothing, right?
Mhm.
It just,
Mm.
I called it, self-care or caring. And it was
Mm.
really, I just checked off a box and said, well, I did those things. Why do you don't feel better? Right.
Mm.
And all that other kind of stuff. And so when we look at, um, I guess, showing care or being, I guess, the expression of care in our work, what do you think are, I don't want to say that the challenges or the difficulties within an organization or within a team, of caring, or what do you think that the challenges with, I guess, what some people say, I care too much, you know,
Mm.
or
Mm.
crazy things like, I don't know. I've said it before, but now it feels like it's crazy.
I don't know if it's crazy. In my experience, all our weaknesses somehow are the extensions of our strengths. and you can overdo almost any of your strengths. I know like you said, you're a recovering perfectionist. I'm a recovering pleaser, so I know exactly where you're coming from when you say I care too much. Yes, you can. I think you can care too much when you step over your own boundaries. And it's starting to affect you. That's the point where if you become aware of that, you can recognize that that is too much, because at that point you're not caring for yourself. You're not caring about your own state, your own personal space, your own inner wellness.
Right.
So that can happen. Having said that, I really think we need more focus on caring in organizations at this point rather than less, because the whole human aspect needs to re-enter the game. And I think we've all experienced how inhuman an organization can be when there is not enough caring
Right.
in that space. Just as customers, if you go into a bank and all you are experiencing is actually about the business and what do you need, but there isn't any care attached to it.
Right.
It becomes
No,
it just becomes a really bad experience as a customer. You won't want to
right.
go back.
I just realized something. It's kind of funny because I've been using this label for a while in my business. I label myself a business life coach, and how I unpack that is that I have business conversations with a listening for your life.
Oh.
And when you were talking, I was like, geez, because I care about people, right? That's because that's earlier in my career, and before I had my own business, I kind of segment my life. It was like I had my home life and I had my business life or work life and all that other kind of stuff. And something would happen or not happen at the house, and I would say, you know what, I'll deal with that later, right? It's just going to stop. I'm going to go to work. And I wasn't showing up fully in my work, and I didn't realize, until now, right, that because there was no listening for my life, there was no care for my life. So my life was like showing up at work and saying, dude, you have to deal with me. You have to, you have to
care about me.
Right. You have to care about me. And the more that I do that for the individuals that I coach, it can do what you said of bringing care back into their business, because it's a part of their work. It's an extension of what they're doing, and it's maybe I need to put that in my on my website and everything, that I care, right? But because I was just concerned with the listening, because before I had no listening for it. And I think sometimes when we don't show up at work or in relationships, it's because we don't have the listening. We feel like we're not being heard.
Right.
We feel like, people don't care or have concerns or anything like that. And so I wanted just to create that space so I can see why you're not being productive in this area, why you have this belief about growth in your organization, why you have a challenge with hiring people or firing people, or all the things that we deal with in our business. And it's really about bringing care, back into your work. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Sometimes it takes conversations like this to have me get it, right?
Well, that's the power of coaching, isn't it? Really,
right.
I mean, it brings up things that we don't reflect on our own somehow, and all of a sudden there's an insight that you can build in, and it really helps.
Right. The lesson that I had last year, there's two things that were coming up, and it was reminding me of that. You mentioned that you're covering, people pleaser and all that
Mhm.
other kind of stuff, and I realized that there was a part of that, in my personality was showing up that um, I was going beyond my boundaries and kind of basically caring for people to the demise of my ideas, my thoughts, um, my money, all the things that what's going on. And at the end of the year, I was like, I want to get to a place where I care for myself just a little bit more.
Mhm.
But I care for people, greatly, right? But just a little bit, if I care about myself just a little bit more, I think it'll make all the difference. And I think sometimes there is this moment for me that it's like, okay, am I being selfish right now? Am I being,
Mhm.
am I, is it too much? But I think that's the only way that we can really, like you were saying before, have this purity in it, because I felt that um, there was coming a point where I was kind of resenting the people that I said I
That's
cared
right.
for, right?
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
Because of what I was doing. It wasn't what they were doing. It was because of what I was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I have to stop that.
Yeah, exactly. This is how we create this certain the drama triangle around us, right? I mean, when I start experiencing that I'm doing everything and nobody cares about my needs and what I want, and I'm the only one that's always caring about everything else. Well, that's when the little red flag has to sort of pop up and say, hey, you need to get off that pedestal of that drama triangle and just
Right,
reflect on where are your boundaries and how are you caring for yourself, and
right,
because it's not serving your relationships either.
right. Because most of the times when we're putting out that much care for, other people,
Mm,
even we are not caring for ourselves, and then
right,
we're mad because nobody's caring for myself, not even me, right? Right.
right,
It's like
right.
crap, right? It's like,
Exactly. One of the best things as a leader you can do, especially now during COVID, is to show and model for your team how you care for yourself.
hmm,
If you as a leader or as a parent uh, are working 24/7 and you don't have time to sit down and just enjoy a cup of coffee or read a book or have a bubble bath or whatever it might be,
right,
uh, then you are not showing a good example. You're not modeling how self-care can be part of your life and has to be part of your life, because sustainable performance cannot happen without self-care.
right. Yeah. No, I totally get that. There's also a saying that people, really people would say this to me when I was a kid, but you don't have a care in the world, right? you know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's like,
yeah.
and it's like, do we want to get back to the place of no care in the world, or do we want cares? Well, do we want
Hmm.
to be, is, in that way of looking at care, it is, it's more of a responsibility. Is that
Hmm.
really what would care or cares more than one cares? It's showing how responsible we are.
Well, it certainly can be a polarized word, like you say. I mean, in that saying, it means you
Right.
don't have anything to worry about, right?
Right.
And so it kind of puts an equation between care and worry.
Right.
Um, and I think it has a lot to do with doing and being.
Hmm. Got it.
When you're in your doing mode and you're caring for others, that's a different kind of caring than when you're in your being, even
Right.
with another person.
Hmm.
um, and it brings up a whole other energy, and somehow we have to try to find a balance there, because I see that a lot, with especially with my clients. that there is so much doing, we forget how to just be
Right.
in
I
that.
think, yeah, I think that's what you were saying. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I think that you were saying before about, being present and your being, right? And it's like sometimes when we get so, I'll speak for myself, when I get so caught up with doing something to show, my wife or my kids that I care, then that's when it goes sideways, right? That's when my motives are being questioned. That's when it doesn't feel right, and all that other kind of stuff. But I get to say, hey, I'm doing something. Give me credit for doing something, right? 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 And it's really in some cases it doesn't feel like care. It does, it doesn't look like care, but I would label it as care because I was doing care, right?
Yeah, right, right. And this reminds me of Simon Sinek's work in his new book. He's talking about the infinite game. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
No.
I think it's an absolutely fantastic concept that we tend to mix up infinite games with finite games, right? So finite game would be a competition, any kind of a competition. You play sports and
Right.
you want to win. There is a specific goal. You have competitors and you can be number one if you do the right things, you tick the right boxes.
Right.
You get to where you can be number one. If you look at your life, if you look at relationships, if you look at business as a whole, those are infinite games. You cannot be a number one husband. You cannot
Right.
be a number one father, right?
Right.
You can
But I have
never
the
reach that.
T-shirt, right?
Yeah,
I got it for Father's Day, right?
yeah, exactly. That's as far as you can get. You can be
Right.
better than you were yesterday.
Right.
You can always improve, but it's all about the journey. It's not about getting
Mm.
there. It's not about reaching a certain position or a prize. It's about being on the journey. And there are so many places where we can confuse these two. And if we play by the rules of a finite game, of a competition, when we're actually talking about our relationship,
Right.
then we can really run up against some difficult situations. And I think when we talk about care, it might be also a good aspect to look at how that is.
Right. Because there is, yeah, it's like I'm like embarrassed to say I felt that there is, I'm getting points, because I'm like, it's like, what am I getting points for? Why do I think I need to get like points for caring, right? Right, it's because I'm playing the wrong game, right? Right, right,
Right,
right,
exactly, exactly. And we all do it from time to time.
right.
It
It's
feels
like,
like, come on, give me some credit here. I'm really caring. I'm
right,
trying.
right.
Uh, but
Wow.
yeah, in the long run, in the long overall scheme of things, you really are gaining. You really are becoming richer
Right,
just by trying, just by being on that track.
right,
And it's not about the points.
right. Wow. Geez, I
Mm.
have to, what, after the call, after the show, I have to let go all these points that I thought I had, right? It's like, just gonna say, oh, okay, they're empty and meaningless then, right? It's like,
I just have to create a finite game around them somehow. That's
right,
all.
right. It's like,
Who can I
all,
compete
right. All these brownie points are
with?
like,
Mhm.
I can't
Right.
use, right? Right. So,
Right.
wow, that's funny. But I mean, it's like, you know, I I would like to believe that I'm a caring person, and I think and I am. But it kind of gets, um, I don't know, icky is the only word that is coming up. I'm just trying to think of a more, I guess, a grown up word or something, right? But when I kind of when I'm playing the wrong game, right? When I am thinking that I need to get credit for it. I need to, I need to prove something. I need to please people. All those other things that come in instead of me just being care and, showing care and expression of care. And it's just, I'm trying to think as we're talking. It's like, okay, the key to kind of get the ickiness out is just change the game. It's like that. It's not, it's no points. It's just I'm just in it. Wow.
Exactly. And it's really powerful once you notice how you're in one or the other type of game in your
Right.
life.
Right.
It really brings a lot of things home. A lot
You know,
of
I think it shows up more in, or it could show up more in our work. I think because we're getting paid, right? Because there is
Mhm.
already a, component to it. So there is this, I do something, I get something, right? Type of
Yeah,
thing. So so I can see how in your coaching with leaders and talking about care and everything like that, there is this doing to get something. If I show care, I can get them to work better, right? I can get them to get along, right? Type of thing, and it
mm.
has to be beyond that, right?
It
It
has
has
to be
to.
way beyond that.
Right.
Yes,
Wow. And we just
yes,
kind of reduce it to there.
because yeah, as you say, if that shows up inauthentically, like you're doing it to get your brownie points,
Right.
um, or you're doing it competitively because there is another leader who's really, really caring,
Right.
and you want to be just as good,
Right.
right? Um, then it's inauthentic and it will come across as manipulation,
Hmm. Wow.
which really undermines your relationship with your direct report or your team.
Right. Wow.
So so it doesn't really work unless it's authentic.
Right. Wow. It's like, I try to stay out of the right and wrongs, right? But
Mm.
there is, so I'm trying to think of another way. There is an effective and ineffective way to care, right? Right. Right. So, trying to, to do that. And I think too often, um, like I said, I'll speak for myself. I kind of go in and out and kind of whatever it feels like, whatever benefit I get out of it. I mean, the benefit of feeling good because of,
Mhm.
our reciprocity, because of my caring. Um, and, I'm, like I said, I'm trying to take the benefit, expecting or receiving the benefit of caring. I'm trying to, I don't know. It's
What's
like,
in it for me?
right.
Yeah,
It's like you're causing this quandary in myself. It's like, oh my God, I'm not a caring person. I'm a manipulator. Right. It's like, and, it's like, I guess I'm both, right? I am my labels and I'm not my labels. Right.
I
So,
think we all are.
right.
We all
So,
are both, and there are moments when we show up, and if I reflect, I realize for myself that this is not really my authentic kind of caring,
right.
and I hope that that's the less common and the more common, and what people hopefully know me for is about the authentic kind of caring,
Right.
where it really is about the connection and just sort of being kind and bringing the compassion into the relationship,
Right.
as opposed to what I need or what's in it for me.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I'm giving myself, I was like, I had a moment there that I was like judging myself, right? Again,
Yeah,
right? It's like,
and that's
you know,
when yeah,
Right.
It
It's like,
it disappears so quickly. See?
right. It's like, okay, let it go, let it go.
Yeah.
All right, you're
Mhm.
good. You know, and that's and I think that's a level of,
Mhm.
self-care, self-compassion. Hey,
Sure.
it's all good. Just be present to how you're showing up and not showing up, and you'll
Mm.
and everything will be fine.
And
Um,
again, it's an infinite game,
right,
right? I mean,
right,
there is always somebody else. I mean, you can be the best, I don't know, podcaster in the world according to one rating, but then
right,
somebody brings another rating, and there it is,
right,
right? He or she comes up as number one. So it's not a competition. It's not a finite game.
right,
It's an infinite game where it's all about what happens on the journey, what happens in these conversations.
right.
And I think that's fantastic. You know how I know that you really care?
Hmm.
I
How?
know from how you found this word for me,
Hmm. Wow. Okay.
because you had to really care and listen and sort of examine and really show up around what could be the right word for our conversation here.
Right. Wow.
That was
Yeah.
all about pure caring.
Wow. I received that. Okay. I
Mm.
I get that. Huh. Well, I think we can talk about this for hours, but but I'm sure there are other cares, right? Uh,
Slowly,
uh,
slowly gathering our
r-
over our heads, right?
right. The is there any other thing that came up for you within this conversation that you want to leave everyone with?
Mm. Maybe just the thought that Esther Perel talks about how the quality of our lives depend on the quality of our relationships,
Hmm.
and I really, really strongly believe and experience that that is so true. And so care about your relationships, care about your relationship with yourself, care about your relationships with others, whether it's within an organization or within a home setting, because
Mhm.
ultimately that's really all we have. Everything else is just cherries on the cake.
Right. Wow. Yep. That is great. Well, thank you very much for this conversation. People can connect with you on LinkedIn there, and this has been great. If you can have a moment, we can say our goodbyes in the green room, and yeah, I really appreciate it.
I do too. This was really fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, wonderful. Wow. Um, Yeah, there is an effective and ineffective way of caring. And it is not just in our intentions or our motives, um, but what game that we're playing. There is an infinite game that it doesn't, we want to keep score and not keep score. And just be. I think the other thing that I got from this conversation is that there's a caring in our being, and there's a caring in our doing, and the more that the caring is in our being, there is a purity to it. So we can just be care, right? And that's it. I hope this conversation has brought value to your day, and to your life. I invite you to have conversations like this and others. You reach out to me at IamWilliamBrown.com. You can have a free complimentary coaching session, and just to see how you are showing up and not showing up. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow on One Word Conversations.